Okay, well, I'm a documentary filmmaker, and I made my first film about maybe 20 years ago. Made 10 films since then. Some of the pieces I've done in Japan and Canada, like co-productions. So I got very involved with Japanese film production people in my grandmother's hometown of Onamichi, near Hiroshima. It's one of those towns that is a film town. Ozu made films, Obayashi Kantoku made films there, film vendors, like people from all over the world. So it's a tiny little village almost, but it just attracts filmmakers. It's just like one of those places. Well, yeah, I was in Vancouver and it was night here, about 11 o'clock, when we first heard news about the earthquake in Tohoku. So we rushed home and then put the TV on and the internet and saw everything pretty well live, uh, almost like a live event. But you saw these horrific images of the big wave coming and people running, and you know that probably they didn't get away. So it was very violent to see the tsunami hitting the towns. The next morning, my granddaughter, who was 6 years old, asked me how the children in Tohoku were. And she obviously could feel that I was upset seeing all the footage, and she probably heard things. And I said the children probably weren't doing very well. And when she said she wanted to help them, I asked her if she was a child in Tohoku, what would help her the most. And that's when she said for someone to give her a hug and hold her. If it wasn't her mom and dad or her grandma, then anybody. And she would feel less afraid and alone. And I said, well, we can't go around Tohoku and give all the children a hug. And so she ran off into her room and she cut her bed sheet and made a square piece of flannel. And she said, Grandma, I'm going to make my hug. So she drew her hug, and that her sister drew something too, and her classmates, and it spread all across Canada, and it became the Kids for Kids Canada Tohoku cloth letters. They've gone through so much loss, and here I come with some cloth letters. How are they going to react? And the cloth letters were all sewn together to make one great big sort of, people were calling them quilts, but they aren't quilts. And so they were easier to travel with. So when I went to that school and opened the case and pulled out the cloth letters, and it went right down the gymnasium like length, it was so big, the kids at first smiled, and then they sort of giggled and laughed, and they started clapping. And they were amazed that so many kids sent them hugs. And it was very emotional. So originally, I didn't go to Tohoku to make a film. That's the truth. I went there as a volunteer to work with the young people and do whatever I could in the different towns and villages in all the three provinces that were hit. So when I went with the cloth letters or with some donations or doing various things like helping clean ditches, um, I met a lot of people. And gradually, I was beginning to see that so many people wanted to speak. They wanted to express their pain and their loss. I thought Japanese people were going to be pretty quiet. But I'm a foreigner, and I'm a woman, and I don't speak Japanese very well, so maybe they felt some safety with me. I'm not sure. But they did want to speak. And some people begged me to make a film. But I would say I'm not here to make a film until I went to Fukushima, to one of the deserted towns where no one lived anymore. It affected me so much to see that all life was gone, that I decided to make the film. And one of the people that stands out is Kaneko. She's a doctor in the northern town of Otsuchi, Iwate. And when I went to see her the very first time, it was a few months after the tsunami, and she was one of the people that asked me to make a film. And I said, no, I've got this little tiny Nikon camera I'm taking some stills with, and I'm not here to make a film. And she broke down and cried, and like she clutched my ankles. And that's how much she wanted someone to help tell their story. And I still had to refuse because I wasn't there to do that. And I felt it was not in my place to do such a story because I'm not from there. Maybe I don't understand a lot of their culture and ways. So I know I wasn't the right person. But she was incredible because she stood out. Here's a woman that was swept away in the tsunami. She was trying to prepare all the medical supplies and thinking that there were going to be a lot of injuries. But while she was collecting her medical supplies, the tsunami swept her away. I mean, a tree hit her in her face and took out all her teeth. Yet, when she was rescued, and that night she had enough strength to be doctoring other victims, survivors. And you can just imagine, like, what would it be like having coming out of the tsunami, being dragged out and having wet clothes, and it's starting to snow, so it's really cold, and not having any supplies, and being injured yourself. She doctored over 100 people.
So the one thing is just keep telling to someone who are really precious to you that just to saying love you. And then one more thing is just keep thinking that don't never give up. So it is important things. One thing is just need to prepare for the things like you need at least in that case, and then maybe you can prepare for it in your house, and like not only the house but in cars or office, and at least that just bring with it and just to evacuate. And then one more thing is maybe we need to decide where to get together in your family or office while you were shopping, where to find a place to evacuate. And the first one and second and the third one. Yeah, you need to prepare several places to get together.